News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
KVNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Northern Steel Buildings. Officials at Mount Logan Middle School will be proceeding with a Test to Stay event today to try and slow a recent surge of COVID-19 cases among students and faculty. Logan City School District spokesperson Shanna Longhurst said over the last week, administrators have seen a surge in COVID cases among 6th through 8th graders. Last Wednesday, Mount Logan Middle School crossed the threshold set by the Utah legislature to consider mitigation efforts to decrease the amount of cases within the school. The announcement was made after the Logan High School event confirmed that 139 additional positive cases came out of the 1,162 students that were tested there on Thursday, according to Bear River Health Department spokesperson Esty Hunt. Longhurst said if a student tests positive, parents will be notified and the student will need to be isolated for 5 days following the date of the positive test. Students who have had a positive test since January 3rd do not need to test. Longhurst said the number of reported cases continues to increase and urges parents to keep their children who are ill at home. Longhurst explained it's extremely important to monitor your children for symptoms, keep them home if they are ill, and seek testing. And Longhurst went on to explain the more we work together, the sooner we can all get students back to school. KVNU News Time is 4:06. KVNU weather for tonight. More of the same with hazy conditions, mostly cloudy skies, areas of fog overnight, low near 15. Cloudy areas of fog in the morning and then haze through the day tomorrow, high temperature in the mid-20s. It is 28 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by U&I Furniture. Expecting to purchase a lot of inventory direct from manufacturers at the upcoming furniture market in Las Vegas. In anticipation, they have aggressive discounts during the January clearance. It's just another reason you'll always find a better buy at U&I, 28 West, 1st North, downtown Logan.
A building is just a building until it's your building. It's where you work, where you create, and where you store your valuable equipment. You take pride in your building, so make sure it's built right and built to last. Northern Steel Buildings will guide you from concept to construction. For your commercial, agricultural, or industrial steel building, visit northernsteelbuilding.com to see their quality work or call 435-677-7300. Northern Steel Buildings. Value from concept to construction.
KVNU News Time is 4:08. According to data gathered by the New York Times and the Washington Post, Utah is near the top of the list of states with the highest daily average of new COVID-19 cases on a per capita basis. Dr. Stephen Goldstein, a postdoctoral research associate at the University of Utah, said Utah's spot on that list is likely due to a number of factors, including vaccine rates, mask usage, and social behaviors. Goldstein told KUTV that vaccines are not as effective against Omicron as they were against previous variants, but they still help. The use of masks, and especially high-quality masks, has also dropped throughout the state. Goldstein also said a larger number of people in Utah are likely attending more social gatherings, allowing for higher transmission rates. Goldstein believes that a stronger response from elected leaders at the local and state levels could help slow transmission rates. And a panel of Idaho lawmakers has introduced a resolution that would have flags flown at half-staff 1 day a year in recognition of abortions that have been performed since the medical procedure became legal nearly 50 years ago. The resolution was introduced Monday in a Senate committee. The bill from Idaho Falls Republican Representative Barbara Ehart would designate January 22nd as the Day of Tears. The concept comes from a Virginia-based anti-abortion organization of the same name, which seeks to get similar legislation passed in every state. Ehart says that resolutions are also being introduced this year in Ohio, Tennessee, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Mississippi, and South Carolina. KBNU News Time is 4:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Breaking news. Stimulating talk is what we do. KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
The Utah Travel Expo, presented by Morris Columbus Travel, with over 80 cruise lines, resorts, and tour companies with exclusive discounts, including Delta Vacations, information seminars, and hourly prize drawings Friday and Saturday, January 28 and 29 at the Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy. Utah Travel Expo tickets at utahtravelexpo.com.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
Jessup Insurance would like to invite you to attend a friendly, no-pressure, no-cost educational Medicare 101 meeting Wednesday, January 19th. Get to know Jessup Insurance as they guide you through Medicare, simplifying the entire process, all while enjoying a yummy dessert. Wednesday, 7 p.m., January 19th at Jessup Insurance. Call 213-3200. That's 213-3200 to reserve a seat.
Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Let us guide you.
For our military families, Americans can show appreciation through education.
Because of you, I will walk across the stage.
I can show my children that they can succeed at any point in their life.
I will be able to make a positive difference in the lives of other people.
I was able to achieve my dreams and work on eradicate some of the world's top diseases.
I was able to get the education that I always wanted.
Because of you, I will be paying it forward and serving my nation.
Join us at ThanksUSA.org.
Hey, it's me, the regular dad. I ask guys like you a few questions, a kind of parenting test. So here goes. What is this sound? Yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it? That's the sound a young teenager makes when he's done something he regrets. Maybe he got caught up in peer pressure, tried a few drinks at a party, and the next morning, well, he makes this sound. Kind of a sad sound, isn't it? Hear the embarrassment? The reluctance, the pulling away. If you recognized it, then you know exactly what to do. Listen. It might take a long time. A drive together or a walk that turns into a talk. And that turns into an arm around his shoulder that means you understand. That's when you can really talk, when he knows you understand. Then the both of you can figure out how not to make the same mistake again. I know, it's tough. Keep at it. You're doing great.
This message brought to you by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cash Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome back to KVNU. Welcome to KVNU's For the People. Man, off to a bad start. I'm Jason Williams. He's Bill Walter.
It's just an homage to Rush.
That's right.
The show that never ends.
Never ends. Never ends. I miss Rush, honestly. As saying that as someone who really never agreed with him, I miss, what a presence, man. Anyway, legislative session 2022 officially underway, and day one didn't go well. So we'll talk about it. We'll spend the majority of hour two on that here on our show Tuesday, January 18th. Here in hour one, we'll talk about the legislature a little bit, and we'll talk about a really important event coming up here in Cache Valley a week from this Thursday. It's happening at the Cache Event Center at two different times, Thursday, January 27th. And this is definitely one to put on your calendars and make some time for. An event brought to Cache Valley courtesy of the Cache Suicide Prevention Coalition. members of the United Way of Cache Valley and others, including county officials, involved in this as well. It's a really important thing. We'll talk about it in just a bit here with Chelsy Schneringer, who is the chair currently of the Cache Suicide Prevention Coalition. She'll be joining us in just a bit. But legislative session coming up in hour two. We'll get to opening remarks from Speaker of the House Brad Wilson, because they were interesting. This was so. For those who don't follow the legislature as obsessively as I do, it's kind of like an NFL season for me. Shorter, thankfully, but similar for me and other political junkies. And it is going to be an interesting one. There were fireworks already today. But what stood out to me from the opening day were remarks made by the Speaker of the House that opening day is usually a time for leadership, quote unquote, or real, depending on how you see things, to stand up and say basically what a great job they've been doing, what a great job they plan to keep doing, and how much they hear about how much everyone loves them. That's usually what opening day is all about. It's meant to set a positive tone. It's meant to be a kumbaya event. It's meant to just say to every lawmaker representing various districts throughout the state, we're a team. We need to work as a team, and we've got some big problems to solve. That's usually what the opening day is all about. Today, Speaker of the House Brad Wilson took it to a dark place, basically firing a huge rhetorical warning shot across his caucus, the majority caucus in the House at least, that the challenges that they're facing right now, the decisions that will be up for a thumbs up or a thumbs down during votes, that the bills they decide or to put their name on or not are going to really impact life here in Utah over the next several decades, considering the challenges up for debate this year. We've got the audio for you, and we'll let you hear that in hour two. But Senate President Stuart Adams had a much more positive, traditional opening remark. So just a bit of that. If you'd like to hear the audio of his remarks, all of this can be found at le.utah.gov. But Senate President Stuart Adams opened the legislative session from the Senate perspective today, first praising the redistricting process, and to a few titters and giggles from the peanut gallery, as I call it, where the public sits. He called it an open and transparent process. He was a little miffed when the giggling started, but it was kind of funny. He said that this was also a year of heroes, 2021 into 2022, and he took some time to praise Highway Patrol officers, healthcare workers, and teachers specifically. And he noted in his opening remarks, Highway Patrol officers, he said, continue to safeguard our state and our capital, rain or shine. They put themselves in harm's way, protecting the citizens of Utah. Thank you. He went on to say teachers and healthcare workers, especially over the last 2 years, have continued to amaze us through the pandemic. He said they have faced every challenge head on. Teachers have worked day in and day out to help our children, especially the kids who have fallen behind from learning remotely. He said healthcare workers have had a never-ending stream of COVID patients along with their normal patients to care for. He said to healthcare workers, your resilience and endurance are amazing, and thank you. That's basically where he went with his opening remarks. He wrapped things up with Benjamin Franklin. He said to each senator in the House, there on each of your desks, there is a Senate coin, which this year features Ben Franklin. Benjamin Franklin was an essential figure in founding our great nation, and as a member of the Constitutional Convention, Franklin helped draft the Constitution. He was also the only man to sign the Declaration of Independence, the Treaty of Alliance with France, and the Treaty of Paris, and the U.S. Constitution, all four key documents that helped establish the United States as an independent nation. That was, he said, some inspiration he wanted to provide. And finally, Senate President Adams wrapped up his remarks today saying, over the past 2 years, we have attempted as lawmakers to meet the pandemic and COVID-19 head-on all fronts. He said, in a brief moment of humility, we've struggled. People have struggled. As state leaders, we've had a lot of tough decisions to make, and we spent a lot of hours with experts, poring over data, deliberating, and even praying. He said we've made an effort to make it possible to protect lives, livelihoods, school children, and personal liberties. But he said our healthcare system, though one of the best in the nation, is under stress. That was where he concluded, and then later on during the press conference with the media, he mentioned that there are a lot of highlights where the economy's at nationwide and here in Utah. Some efforts that he is championing as Senate President to provide better funding and resources for mental health, and the work that they'll be doing throughout the session to provide adequate funding and hopefully, he said, more funding than before for education here in Utah. You can see the Senate President's full remarks on our Facebook page and watch the video there at le.utah.gov. Again, we'll get to the Speaker of the House's opening remarks in hour 2 because they're worth hearing. It was a pretty dark opening speech from the Speaker of the House, but his point, again, remembering when they make these remarks, they're speaking to their colleagues. His point was, folks, take this session seriously. We'll get to that. More coverage of day 1 of the 45-day session in hour 2 of today's show. On the other side, though, Chelsy Schneringer of the Cash Suicide Prevention Coalition is our guest right after this.
Wow, your cars look so shiny.
Thanks. I've been taking them to Green Gorilla Car Wash. Thanks to their new ceramic application, my cars have never had such a glossy shine.
Sounds expensive.
You haven't heard about their sale? Right now, their Jungle membership with ceramic coating is half off for every vehicle. Instead of $30 per month, I'm only paying $14.99 from now until September 2022.
That's almost a whole year.
I know. My half-price membership is good at both Green Gorilla locations in the valley.
I better head there now.
Pristine wilderness can still be found in the West, where creeks run freely and historic apple trees still bear fruit. Maple Creek Ranch features breathtaking canyon views and opportunities for real estate development. 2.5-acre lots are now available with adjacent wilderness areas that provide endless riding and recreational possibilities. So find your piece of paradise just 35 minutes from Logan at Maple Creek Ranch. Schedule your appointment online at maplecreekranch.net.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Coming up in hour 2, just a reminder, we'll be spending most of the entire second hour on the opening day of the legislative session. Some fireworks already, some opening remarks from the Senate President and House Speaker that kind of lay out the agenda, what the priorities will be of this session, and how things look revenue-wise, which means how things look tax cut-wise, if that's going to happen or not. So we'll get to that coming up in hour 2. We'll run through what Cache Valley lawmakers are working on, what bills they've put their name on that have been made public so far. Before we get to all of that, though, there's an event coming up next week that I think is one of the most important events that has taken place in Cache Valley in a long time. And for listeners, I've linked to this already on our Facebook page if you'd like details on how to get involved. But here to discuss this event happening next week, January 27th, at 2 different times here in Cache Valley, the Cache Suicide Prevention Coalition and the United Way of Cache Valley working together with many people involved to bring very special events to Cache Valley regarding suicide, how we talk about it, how we think about it, and what we can all do as individuals to reduce what is tragically in Utah almost every year a growing problem, especially among young people and even middle-aged adults. That number rising as well here in Utah. So joining us right now, Chair of the Cache Suicide Prevention Coalition, Chelsy Schneringer. And Chelsy, really appreciate you taking some time for KVNU today, but also just right out of the bat, appreciate that the coalition is sponsoring this event and bringing it to the Valley for the rest of us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. And like I said, thank you for the value that you see in this event. So I appreciate that.
It's such an important event because, as I've mentioned, we've come a long ways. I mean, is that fair to say? We've all gone from don't talk about it, don't mention it, to, okay, we should talk about it. We should be able to destigmatize this thing in order to reduce its prevalency. And now we're in a situation where all of us are thinking, well, how do we talk about this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So just a couple of things. We need to keep in mind two different audiences when we talk about suicide prevention messaging. So really, first is that general community audience who might have misperception, stigma, or just general ignorances about suicide and suicide prevention. And like you said, we have come a long ways, but there are very specific ways to talk about suicide specifically. And really, the other audience that we want to keep in mind when we message about suicide or we talk about suicide is those who are at risk of suicide due to a whole combination of certain life experiences, biological or genetic factors, or even environmental risk factors. So really, ultimately, our goal is to message really intentionally to both of these audiences, but particularly we want to keep those at risk safe, and we want to inspire hope, help-seeking, and resilience in the way that we talk about suicide.
And we should mention as well that there are, not that isn't enough incentive to be a part of this event next Thursday, but there are some other incentives. At one event for the general public, you will be giving away a chance to win a 24-gun gun safe from Al's Sporting Goods as one of the prizes for one lucky participant in the event next Thursday. And that that speaks to what we know about, the problem of suicide rate growth here in Cache Valley, here throughout Utah. A gun safe, something as simple as locking them up in the home, could make all the difference, right?
Oh, absolutely. The key between the time of the decision and the actual follow through when it comes in regards to suicide is a matter of minutes, literally. And so putting time in between somebody and means is huge. Just giving a little bit of time for you to kind of get out of that rash situation in your mind really makes a big difference. Making sure your guns are locked up, having gun locks on your guns, making sure prescriptions are in a locked cabinet. All of those different things means is huge, putting time between a person and means.
That is, man, that puts it in some stark perspective, minutes between the decision. This also, back to how we talk about it and think about it, that works in reverse as well. Minutes could also be the difference between the decision and a change of mind, right?
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, especially if we're noticing something, we're concerned about somebody who may be that may be at risk for suicide, and so really changing our language and being able to kind of offer a safe place for somebody to ask for help, to open up about the problems that they're having. So really, changing our language can literally save a life, and that's really what this event is all about. It's really communicating about suicide in a manner that reduces the risk for vulnerable individuals, and then also increasing knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors that are protective from suicide in all of our community members.
This is, such an important thing, and it seems, Chelsy, we've heard this before from some of our listeners when we've talked about the similar themes here. A listener called several months ago. We were discussing an event that happened specifically for middle-aged men here on campus regarding the stigma of talking in a healthy way about suicide. And a listener commented and said, it almost seems like prevention shouldn't be this simple, but in a lot of ways it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it absolutely is. And really, even just in the images that we use, in the words that using bright, hopeful messages. If you're familiar with the Live On campaign, I don't know if you're, sure. But it's the statewide suicide prevention campaign. And if you look at a lot of their things, they're bright images, they're images of people together making connections, their messages of it's okay to ask for help. If you're worried about somebody, ask them. Really listen to somebody. You know, people, it is a misconception sometimes that it is really complex, but really in some ways it's just being a little bit maybe more mindful around about those around us, and being brave enough to ask them if they're doing okay.
Nationwide, there is roughly, the statistics bear this out, one suicide death every 11 minutes. And that's just astounding to think about. And this event is there to help us think and talk about this again in a healthy way, in a more productive way. Chelsy, we should also mention this. Everyone who attends will have the opportunity to get also a free crumble cookie. That's an incentive for anyone who's ever tried them. If you haven't tried them before, it should be an incentive. The event takes place two different times. Next Thursday, January 27th, one event at noon to 1 p.m., and this event is geared for people who might have a bit of an audience, like some of us here at the radio station, but also cash business leaders, teachers and educators, counselors, professionals, church leaders, anybody that might have a bit of influence over a group of people. That event from noon to 1 p.m., it's a lunch-based event. And then that evening, Thursday, January 27th as well, 6 to 7 p.m., is open to families, the general public, everyone. Free crumble cookies again. And where will this all take place, Chelsy?
This will all be held at the Cache County Event Center.
That is, how did this come to be? Was this an idea that, you there at the coalition, you're sitting around talking, thinking, this needs to happen? Or is this something that's been a long time in the works?
This has really been a long time in the works. We've had a couple of situations where an event has happened and maybe that hasn't been talked about in the most safe manner. So as a coalition, we decided that it was going to be a priority and we wanted to do something about it. We wanted to provide this training for professionals as well as people in the community. Like you said, people with an audience as well as people in the community. So when things happen, unfortunately in the community, that people will know how to respond in a safe manner that protects others who also may be at risk. And so that's really, it has been some time in the making, but also recently have been brought as a priority to the upfront of the coalition.
So glad this is happening. The overall theme, again, for listeners of these two events next Thursday at the Cache Event Center, one at noon and one at 6 p.m., is, could be summed up as words matter. The way we talk about suicide could really make the difference between a tragedy and a story of hope and overcoming some of the contributing factors, thoughts, and more that can lead a person to want to take their life. Words mattering, of course, means that it applies to all of us, whether you're a parent, whether you're a peer. This could be, teens. This could be educators, professionals, church leaders, a radio host, business leaders. This applies to all of us, so please consider getting out to these events. Again, for business leaders, educators, counselors, church leaders, and more, an event at noon next Thursday at the Cache Event Center, noon to 1 p.m., a free lunch provided. And then for the general public, Thursday, January 27th, 6 to 7 p.m. at the Cache Event Center, open to families and everyone. Free crumble cookies provided. They'll be giving away a 24-gun gun safe from Al's Sporting Goods to one lucky participant. And most of all, walk away from this knowing better how to talk productively about suicide. Chelsy, really appreciate taking some time for KVNU today. And again, appreciate that the Cache Suicide Prevention Coalition is out there doing what you all do. One final question here for you. If folks out there listening maybe can't make this event next Thursday for various reasons, how can they help the coalition at large?
I would say just contacting myself or Jimmy at United Way. We're the leadership team there, just contacting one of the two of us, and we would be happy to help anybody however we can get involved.
Fascinating stuff, and again, important stuff. Our guest, again, chair of the Cash Suicide Prevention Coalition, Chelsy Schneringer. And Chelsy, really appreciate your time for KVNU today.
No, appreciate you, Jason. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And for listeners, thank you for tuning in. Please stay tuned. We'll be back. But first, a look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:35, and the news is brought to you by Roof Rescue. Cache County Sheriff Chad Jensen will meet with local mayors and city officials on February 2nd to discuss their participation in a new countywide animal impound facility. The facility is now under construction east of the Cache County Jail with a projected completion date of May 19th. Jensen explained in a progress report to members of the Cache County Council recently that the contractors are on track to finish the building on time. In that report, the sheriff acknowledged that progress on the project was slow initially due to recent shortages of construction materials. The footings and foundation have been poured and backfilled. Crews are expected to start the masonry work this week. Members of the Cache County Council unanimously gave a green light to plans to build the $3.2 million facility on May 21st of last year. County officials and invited guests officially broke ground for the project on October 6th. Ideally, the new facility will shelter all animals impounded by local city and county officials. Jensen explained that the February 2nd meeting is intended to formalize that plan and discuss development of a standard county-wide animal control ordinance. Utah Highway Patrol was on the scene of a fatal car fire on the I-15 northbound on-ramp from Bangerter Highway earlier today. Sergeant Cameron Roden with UHP told KUTV that troopers responded to a single vehicle fire, and there appeared to be one fatality. Sergeant Roden later confirmed that an SUV was traveling northbound on the interstate at a high rate of speed when it took the off-ramp to Bangerter. The car went all the way across Bangerter and approximately halfway down the on-ramp when it caught fire. The sergeant noted that the car hit several objects as it exited and came to rest in the on-ramp. He also noted that other than the one confirmed fatality, there were no other injuries associated with the crash. UDOT stated that the vehicle fire closed the northbound I-15 exit and entrance ramps for Bangerter in Draper. And a man was thrown from his car and died in a rollover crash on State Route 6 near Schofield Junction yesterday afternoon. Utah Highway Patrol deputies said that crash involved a red Ford Escort and happened near milepost 215 in Carbon County at around 3:45 p.m. Deputies say that the driver heading westbound on SR6 lost control when he passed two vehicles using the westbound emergency lane. The car spun out and crossed two lanes of westbound traffic, the center lane and two eastbound lanes of traffic, before going off the side of the road, rolling and coming to a rest near a fence. KVNU News Time is 4:38.
If you think it's expensive to hire a professional, just wait until you hire an amateur.
Why the heck is the roof leaking? Larry, you said you got it fixed.
I thought it was fixed, Donna. Everything was fine until it started raining.
Larry, that's the point of fixing the roof, is so we can actually live here when it's stormy outside.
This is David with Roof Rescue. Our experienced roofing team is tried and true and will fix your roof guaranteed. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free roof inspection. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
KVNU weather for tonight, mostly cloudy, haze, areas of fog, low near 15, cloudy areas of fog in the morning, haze through the day tomorrow, mid-20s. But then by Thursday night, snow developing, 70% chance, and some snow into Friday morning. It's been 29, it's 27 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Wheatland Seed. With higher fertilizer prices and drought conditions, 2022 will be challenging. So lower your input costs during Wheatland Seed's preseason sale. All oats, barley, cover crops, and alfalfa will be priced below last year's prices. Visit wheatlandseed.com for more information. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Cheryl bringing you the Daily Financial Market Report on behalf of Jeff Olson and Edward Jones. U.S. markets fell sharply on Tuesday, adding to losses for 2022 already. The tech-heavy NASDAQ remained the underperformer, down 2.6%, bringing total declines for the year to over minus 7.3%. This comes as the 10-year Treasury yield continues its climb, up to 1.87 levels, the highest since the start of the pandemic, adding further pressure to longer duration growth sectors and bond-like areas, including real estate. Meanwhile, energy continues to climb, with the WTI crude oil up over 2% to $85 levels. The energy sector remains a standout for the year, now up nearly 17% year-to-date. U.S. equities closed lower today. The Dow closed down 543 points at 35,368. The NASDAQ closed down 387 points at 14,507. The S&P closed down 86 points at 4,577. In stocks of local interest, Nucor was down 4.12% to 106.70. Thermo Fisher was down 4.70 to 590.10. Wells Fargo was down 1.37 to 56.69. Chevron was up 0.42 to 129.38. Apple was down 3.27 to 169.80. Walt Disney was up 0.33 to 152.27. Science was down 1.22 to 69.43. Amazon was down 64.41 to 3,178.35. This has been today's Financial Market Report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Jeff Olson, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 580 North Main in Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact our branch office at 435-787-8170. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
It's the winter weekend everyone loves, Bear Lake's Monster Winterfest. January 21st through the 23rd. Go to bearlake.org for details on events, plus hotel and lodging deals. Come up for a weekend of food and tons of fun as hundreds of people brave the icy cold waters of Bear Lake for the Monster Polar Plunge. There's a chili cook-off, cardboard boat regatta, fun run, and Cisco Disco fishing tournament. Go to bearlake.org for all the info and lodging specials. The Monster Winterfest, January 21st through the 23rd in Bear Lake.
Hi, this is Drew Allen with Allen Mortuaries. Over the years, thousands of families have planned ahead with Allen Mortuaries. Planning ahead helps you make informed and thoughtful decisions. It also spares your family the stress of making these decisions under the pressure of time and strong emotions. Allen Mortuaries' secure pre-need trust plan can save you nearly 40% versus other plans. Keep it simple, safe, and secure. Go with the proven choice, Allen Mortuaries. Voted best funeral home in Cache Valley in northern Utah. Allen Mortuaries. Then, now, always.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Thanks again to Chelsy Schneringer for joining us. She is the current chair of the Cache Suicide Prevention Coalition. That event, one more time, next Thursday. One event at noon for influencers, for lack of a better word, and another event at 6 p.m. for the general public. They're giving away a 24-gun gun safe from Al Sporting Goods. They're giving away free crumble cookies, open to the general public. Everyone encouraged to attend, and the overall theme, again, is words matter, the way we talk about suicide. And I have to be honest with you, Bill, this is something that hits, very close to home for me, because we talk about news stories, and oftentimes, in different ways, sometimes because of a tragedy that's in the news, other times It can involve a celebrity or just someone from our community, but the details of the event can put it in the news, and then we talk about it here on the show. Also, public policy. When lawmakers are discussing it, there's an effort underway in the Utah legislative session that kicked off today to address mental health through additional funding and to get more resources to law enforcement, with this idea that, when someone's having a mental health crisis, it shouldn't be an armed officer of the law alone that shows up. We might be able to prevent a lot of police shootings by having someone trained to deal with a mental health crisis show up as well. But that's going to take money. All these things are going to be discussed during legislative session. And I'm sensitive to this. I've read enough about, generally, about suicide, about ideation, the thoughts that can lead a person to make this decision. I've read enough about it that I know that I'm hypersensitive to how I talk about it whenever these news stories come up. And I'll be clear with our listeners, I don't know how to talk about this the right way. And there is this fear, as, words matter cuts both ways. I worry that, one day we'll be talking about one of these stories and just an indelicate phrasing on my part or a poor choice of words leads to someone else, having a thought in their head that they then, as Chelsy said before the break there, make a decision that within minutes leads to a tragedy. I'm conscious of that, but I've never had the opportunity really to discuss that with a professional or someone who has some experience in training for these types of things. So just from my perspective, that's one of the reasons I was excited to be able to highlight this event on the show with Chelsy as our guest.
Well, and it's something that in years past, nobody did talk about.
No.
It was,
the stigma around it.
It was a stigma for the surviving family and friends and everything. And people just, it was kind of whispered. It was, people would tell other people, but it wasn't out in the open. So I think any talk about it, in public, has to be a positive ultimately. Just to get it out there, because people are thinking about it anyway.
Yeah,
those that have considered it or something, they're thinking about that, possibly doing it or something. A lot of people have. I don't think somebody talking about it will, really plant the idea in their mind.
Yeah.
For those individuals, I think that idea is already there.
Yeah, and that's where this is, so important, this idea of words mattering. Chelsy said during the interview there, and this is just kind of been ringing in my head since, but she said it's a matter of minutes between a decision that an individual might make and acting on it. I guess the word would be successfully, but that's not a word that fits in this context. Carrying it out. How about that? A matter of minutes. And in the context of her remarks, we were talking about why they're giving away a gun safe. Because honestly, some folks online on Facebook kind of reacted to that. Like, is that why that as a giveaway?
At just casual glance, it doesn't seem like that'd be appropriate.
Because most suicides in Utah are the result of a gun, or the gun is the tool used. But as Chelsy explained, this is actually the perfect gift to be giving away at an event like this because, or prize, I guess you'd say, because of that fact that someone locking up the guns in the home in a gun safe could literally mean the difference between someone having the thought and making the decision in a mental health crisis and then carrying it out. Same with prescription medications that can be dangerous, Chelsy said. And so the reason I bring this up is it's just a good reminder of how it really is, I think, surprising, not in all cases, but I think it's very surprising how simple it would be to prevent more of these incidents. And that's the message the coalition and other experts we've had here on the show have sent again and again and again, is that this really is, it really can be as simple as someone having someone to talk to. But in order for someone to have someone to talk to, we all have to be, all of us, every single one of us have to be open to that, meaning there can't be a stigma around this, regardless of a person's age. You know, here in Utah, some research has been done to show that middle-aged men are very affected by the stigma. In the middle-aged men, very high suicide rate of middle-aged men here in Utah compared to other states. And there are even some areas in the state where it's worse than in other parts of the state, and you can assume some obviously reasons why. And one of the biggest contributors, experts believe, speaking to those who have had the thoughts and made the decision but then not carried it out, one of the biggest contributors is middle-aged men are more likely than almost any other demographic to be unwilling to talk about it. You know, the idea that thinking about suicide is something for weak people. I'm too tough to need any help. I couldn't possibly need to just vent to someone or talk to a loved one about the thoughts going through my head that I don't understand. I couldn't possibly have a serious mental health crisis going on here that could be easily resolved. You know, it's just a bad day. That's the thinking that leads to this very high suicide rate of middle-aged men here in Utah. So, yeah, the idea of being able to talk about this is so important. And the idea of this event next week, giving everybody an opportunity to learn exactly that. One more time, again, there's an event at noon next Thursday at the Cash Event Center that is geared more towards, now, as Chelsy said, come to whichever one you can, but the event at noon is geared more towards those who might be in a position where they might be at some point speaking to a group. So that would apply to those of us here at the radio group, especially on-air talent and people in the newsroom. But Chelsy said it would apply to teachers, counselors, business leaders, people at the Chamber of Commerce, religious leaders in any position. Anytime someone is possibly going to be able to speak to a large group of people or a moderate group of people, that event at noon, from noon to 1 next Thursday at the Cash Event Center, is for them specifically. And then that evening, 6 to 7 p.m., free crumble cookies. I'll be honest with you, Bill, I might try to catch both.
That's definitely a draw.
Yeah.
You know.
Go to the first event as a member of the media, and then the second event, just, you know, as Joe Blow.
Shave off your
just
mustache.
Here for the
change
cookies.
your appearance.
Just here for the cookies. But yeah, the second event, 6 to 7 p.m., they're giving away the gun safe and the free crumble cookies for everyone that attends. And that's 6 to 7 p.m. Next Thursday night at the Cash Event Center. I'm glad the coalition's here. I'm glad they're doing this. I think this will be a starting point for seeing some better trends here in Cache Valley when it comes to, and the state of Utah at large when it comes to our suicide rate. 753-5868. We'll be back right after this.
This is Dr. Red, chiropractic physician with Red River Health and Wellness. Are you suffering with fatigue, brain fog, headaches, intestinal issues, weight gain, and you haven't been able to find any answers?
I've constantly been fighting with my weight and thyroid issues for more than 25 years, and none of the doctors in 25 years have ever been able to explain to me what Hashimoto's is, what it means to me, and how to manage it.
Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
Today, my life is like the minute I get out of bed, I hit the ground running. I'm ready to go. I want to see what today is going to bring, what adventures I'm going to have without pain and with all the energy to do everything that I want to do.
Our goal is to teach you and educate you so you know how to manage your condition a lot more effectively and you know what to do and what not to do for the rest of your life. With our satisfaction guarantee, you have nothing to lose.
Call Red River at 855-55-RIVER to schedule an in-depth consultation absolutely free. All appointments can be done remotely by FaceTime, Skype, or phone.
This year, let's do Ski-Doo all winter, no matter the weather, because you've got to love that Ski-Doo feeling. So start off the season with the ultimate winter fun machine and get into gear to discover our state's beautiful landscapes. Take your whole family on an adventure filled with fun through marked trails and snow-covered mountains. Come meet the Ski-Doo experts and learn about the current promotions at Frank May Ski-Doo in Honeyville. Rest assured you'll get a fair deal. Frank May Ski-Doo is a two-time gold medalist in the 2021 Best of Northern Utah contest.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru for Morris Columbus Travel and Delta Vacations. Run away to the sunny beaches of Hawaii, Mexico, and the Caribbean with double discounts. You get a guaranteed air and hotel discount. Then we take that already discounted rate and drop it up to an additional $350 per booking. For the best travel deals on the planet, call Morris Columbus Travel.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. President Biden and fellow Democrats are searching for momentum ahead of the State of the Union in March. Can they find it in the next 30 days or so? Also, why companies no longer predict when we'll return to the office. And how to find those in-demand home COVID testing kits. We'll tell you the Twitter accounts that help. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
I wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend. You could cut ties with all the lies that you've been living in. And if you do not want to see me again, I would understand.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Big announcement today from former Utah House Representative Val Potter. He's launched a campaign. You could look at this almost as a re-election campaign. And, we talked about this last week. Rumors were going around. I could only confirm for listeners that I had not heard any. I'd heard the rumors, but I hadn't heard any confirmation. And I had reached out to ask if anyone knew if this was going to happen. It turns out the rumors were true. And Val Potter will seek election in Utah's, or Cache County's Northern House District. For those who haven't followed along, this was an election that played out in 2020 in which a newcomer unseated the incumbent, and Potter is looking to flip that table again. So we'll see how this goes. I did kind of assume this would be happening, and there are a lot of reasons why. Whether you agree with what we'll be talking about this in hour two when we break down legislation sponsored by all of our Cache Valley representatives. But Cache Valley is quirky this way. And the way that we're quirky is that, Cache Valley is very much a conservative red area when it comes to elections, at least. But when it comes to national politics, I don't know if it's that the conservatives here in Cache Valley are more moderate, or if it's that they're just more protective of Cache Valley, and so they don't want national issues and national political campaigns sneaking in. Senator Chris Wilson was successful in his run for office, but he was held back actually by a national organization that kind of hijacked his campaign, attempting to help. They were campaigning for him, but it hurt him here in Cache Valley. So that's a great example of what I'm talking about. And again, I don't know if it's that mindsets are a little more moderate here than national politics currently are, or if it's something that we just are so protective of Cache Valley, we don't want outside groups or outside issues muddying the waters. We want so in the end, we've seen this play out before with a short-lived political career for Representative Dave Butterfield, for kind of the same reasons, not exactly the same issues or lean, but issues that weren't germane to Cache Valley were brought into the fold quite a bit. I remember everyone was upset when Representative Butterfield brought to the Cache County Republican Party convention representatives from a voucher promoting group out of Utah County. Had nothing to do with Cache Valley. And people were, I remember delegates were upset by that. So you have to be really careful here in Cache Valley. And so I think our newest representative, Mike Peterson, has attracted a challenger, which he officially got today in the form of former state lawmaker Val Potter, who will be seeking election in that northern district for the Utah House of Representatives here in Cache Valley. And we'll see how this plays out. But that announcement made official today via an email, including a link to the website votepotter.com, P-O-T-T-E-R, votepotter.com, and former Representative Val Potter making it official via an email announcement today. He will seek re-election to that seat in this year's race. Hour 2 of today's show with a recap of day 1 of the legislative session 2022 right after.